Hi, welcome back to another edition of Economics with Mr. Ko. And yep, I'm going to finish up the demand elasticities application question, which is this one. Problem situations given here. In part 3, which is the previous video, I already started on part B of the essay question. So you might want to watch it as it makes more sense chronologically in your learning, I suppose. But welcome back, and in this part, I will go over another example model, car model, and I will also go over evaluation. So in part 3, as mentioned, I've covered the Hyundai Grand i10 Neos example. We did PED analysis, YED analysis, and also combined analysis. All right. So, like Hyundai Grand i10 Neos, the Mitsubishi Mirage, which is shown on this slide, has a PED of less than 1. Let me just go back to the overview. Yeah, less than 1. But its YED is less than 0. And that means we need to do something a little different in our combined analysis. So it's a little bit trickier in that regard. Right? So I'm not going to go over why P1 times Q1 is greater than P0 times Q0. That was done in part 3 of the series. But the crucial difference here is that depending on how much demand falls, total revenue would either rise or fall. So case 1, demand falls slightly, and demand falls due to the rise in income because the YED is less than 0. It's considered an inferior product. So as you can see, overall total revenue is the region shaded in gray, and therefore total revenue would rise overall. Okay, from P0 times Q0 to the intermediate in which it rose, and then, but overall, okay, the region in gray is still greater than P0 times Q0. Whereas in case B, demand falls substantially, so the demand curve shifts from D0 and significantly leftwards to DB. And as you can see, the overall total revenue is the region shaded in lime green. And in this case, total revenue falls overall, right? So there are 2 cases actually. And since the effect on total revenue is ambiguous, you must just justify which effect outweighs which. So according to the Bank of America Global Research report published just quite recently, I think, I'm using real-world examples here. You know, the raw material cost, as you can see in the quotation, has had a whopping increase by about 87%. That's a lot, right? So that actually, you know, means that cost of production has risen quite substantially, which actually hints at the sharp fall in the supply of cars across the board, right? Different car models. Comparatively, most economies are only now starting to witness lukewarm recovery in the aftermath of the COVID pandemic. And as such, the rise in incomes is probably quite small in most countries. Moreover, the Mitsubishi Mirage, whilst being rather basic, still serves most communities well, and thus YED is negative, but still close to 0. And therefore, there is only a slight fall in demand, which corresponds to case A. And thus, the fall in supply is going to outweigh the fall in demand, leading to an overall increase in total revenue. Okay. All right. So, just an exam tip, you obviously don't need to go over 4 models in your exam. 3 models would suffice, but you have to have PED, YED, and combined analysis, right? So, yeah, I won't be going over C and D, so Audi RS and Dacia Sandero. Think, just to test yourself, right? For the Audi RS, given that PED is more than 1 in magnitude and it's a luxury product, so YED is greater than 1, can you draw a diagram incorporating the combined impact? And not only that, you can't just stop at your diagram, you must also explain qualitatively what happens, right, to total revenue. Okay. Sales revenue earned from selling the Audi RS. Okay. And of course, if you're, still not sure, you can test yourself again using Model D, the Dacia Sandero. Okay. Yeah. So I'm just going to go over the evaluative conclusion. Right, so obviously the outcome on sales revenue is indeterminate for some combinations, such as the luxury model Audi RS with PED greater than 1 in magnitude, and inferior models with PED less than 1, like the Mitsubishi Mirage. Therefore, it depends on the prevailing economic conditions. So this is a well-defined criterion which you need for the evaluative component. Right. So, for example, is the rise in income only marginal? If so, then supply with PED analysis will outweigh the demand factor. Also, the assumption of the ceteris paribus does not hold in reality. Other factors such as changes in taste and preference may also affect the demand for different car models. Given that there is a rise in income, demand for normal Korean car models may not increase significantly. And just a note, normal is the overarching term with 2 subsets. Okay, just quick recap. Necessity, YED between 0 and 1, and luxury goods, YED greater than 1. Right, so in economic terms, normal actually comprises both necessities and luxury goods. Okay, may not increase significantly. It may even fall if there is an increase in preference for European car models whose features may be perceived as more attractive by some consumers. So if the dominant demand factor, which was not actually mentioned in the question at all, but obviously ceteris paribus doesn't hold, it could be that the taste and preference demand factor dominates, for example, shifting away from the Hyundai Grand i10 Neos, and this may outweigh the rise in demand due to rise in incomes and even the fall in supply, right, leading to an overall fall in total revenue, which then obviously would refute the earlier theoretical analysis. All right, so this is just an example of how a student might write their evaluative comment or conclusion at the end, right, for a 15 marker. All right. Just a reminder that you could, contact me if you need help with high school economics.